Hey guys, how are we all doing? Just wanted to make you this quick video on what, for me anyway, is the most profitable Bitcoin trading strategy. Now, I'm not saying that this is the most profitable strategy out of every single strategy that anybody has ever tried on any market anywhere in the world. All I'm saying is, for me, in my experience, this trade setup has been the number one best at returning profit. And I think it's really simple, and pretty much anybody that's a trader should be able to trade this strategy, and it plays out at a very, very consistently high strike rate for profitable trades, anywhere from 5 to 10 to 50% trade setups on Bitcoin. It does play out a lot on legacy markets, gold, silver, stock market indices and things like that as well. But specifically on Bitcoin, I think this is probably the number one setup, and it's so easy to trade. I can't believe there's so many people out there that don't trade this setup or don't even know how to trade it or what it is, how it works. So I want to make this quick video. It's going to last about 10-15 minutes, so if you're keen on learning that, then tune in for the rest of the vid. So basically, let's get stuck into it. What we're looking at here is bullish divergence. So I believe that the bull div on the 4-hour and the daily is an extremely profitable strategy on Bitcoin. And so what we're going to be looking for is basically how this plays out and how you guys can set it up. So the first thing you're going to need is you're going to need the RSI indicator, right? You can get bullish divergence indicators for a whole heap of different things, right? But the one that I use mainly is the RSI, and I also have a private one as well. It's been customized for me, it's pretty handy. But we're going to concentrate on the RSI, right? So this is the indicator here that we use. So it's called relative strength index dash divergences dash Libertas. So you can just type that one into your indicators and strategies, and it will pop up. It can be a little bit of a tricky one to find sometimes, so I might just leave a link for you guys for that one in the description. If I forget, just hit me up, but it should be there. Okay, so let's get into how it works. So you should have this pop up on your screen. Some of you guys might need to customize it. I think his newer version looks a little bit different to the current one that I've got. I've been using this for a couple of years now. So let's just get one up anyway, and we can have a quick look at how it's actually presenting. Okay, so basically probably what you're gonna need to do is just right click on here and go to settings, and then you can, oops, we've got to actually select the indicator, so highlight it, go to settings, then change color 1. Just change that to orange, and then you should have it set up pretty much the way it is. I actually find these tags really annoying, and it gets in the way, so I sort of remove them. That's why I use the older version of his indicator. Trader Troy actually made a market mastery version of the indicator, which has made the little tags a little bit smaller, and also put in a median line as well. So I'll leave a link for that if you guys want that as well. And it's just a little bit easier to actually read the information that the relative strength index chart is giving you. So let's have a quick look at how these play out and what to look for. So first of all, what I'm looking for my divergences is I'm looking for price, right, to make an initial low, right, in the oversold area of our RSI. So to give you an example how RSI works, underneath the purple band is the oversold range, above the purple band is the overbought range. So because we're going long, we want to be looking for longs or buys when we're in the oversold range, right? And specifically when we have our RSI indicator going in a different direction to price. And that's when we generally get the big reversals, which everybody wants to be getting in at the bottom of a reversal, right? So what we want to be doing here is we want to be identifying where our initial low is, right? And that will show up on our chart as the pivot, right? And you'll get a little blue indicator, and it'll pop up like that. And usually the price action of the indicator goes red instead of orange, right? And so what we're then looking for is a significant swing in the other direction, right? So we put in the low, then we have a significant swing in the other direction. I don't want to see like a little thing like this, like 1 or 2 candles away from each other. For me, that's not as significant. I would much rather see a actual swing away and then swing back down. So proper swing away and then full swing back. And so this will have, on the lower time frames, will have a full reset of your momentum indicators. So they will go from being oversold, and then they'll be overbought, and then they'll come back to being oversold again, and they'll have another they'll roll over, right? And then what will be happening on our higher time frame indicators, like a 4 hour or a daily, which I'll give you examples of later, is they'll be resetting and coming back down, but they'll be holding higher, or at least flatlining with the low, while price makes a lower low. So we have a significant swing away and then swing back, right? This is our low here, and then this is our lower low here, right? So we just get a line like this, and we put that across like that, right? We make it nice and thick so it's very easy to identify, right? And so that's going, obviously, and making a lower low, right? And then here, we go from our pivot, and we go from the low on the indicator to where it's either, well, this one is a flat line, right? It's a different type of divergence, but you can tell that the price is making a lower low, and indicator is making equal bottom, right? So indicator's flat line for its bottoms, and price making lower low. Usually the one that we're looking for is actually when the indicator makes a higher low like this, right? And so you can sort of get the understanding of why it's called divergence, because the RSI is going in a different direction to price action, right? So what we then do is we see this sort of playing out, and then I'll go into the lower time frames, right? So on the lower time frames, we actually had a bullish divergence on the 1 hour here as well. And we also got a really nice pin for our entry candle on the 1 hour, right? So we can see here that the same setup is here on the 1 hour, right? So significant swing away and then come back, and we can see that we're putting our pivot down here, and then our bullish divergence is put in here. And so basically what we have is we have a higher low, right? Because this low is higher than this one, right? And a lower low on price. So indicator is a higher low and price is a lower low, which gives us that divergence, right? They're going in different directions to each other, right? And so then we have this candlestick here, which is what we call an entry candle, right? So the way that I would trade this is I would enter on the 1 hour candle when this closes, right? Because we always want to be looking for our entry trigger candles, right? And these ones are always the easiest to get into, because you can just simply have really risk-defined setup, right? And stop loss below the wick, you get in there, we get the divergence in there, and then, we can look for our first trouble area, which is going to be this level through here, or for higher as well, right? So for me, I actually took profit on this one up here, right? Through this area, because I was expecting that this is actually going to come back and end up playing out for more of an inverse head and shoulders play on the 4 hour, which is actually just in the process of starting to play out right now. For anybody who wants live analysis on what my trade setup right now is, I think this is a pretty clean inverse head and shoulders here that's getting set up, right? Which actually has a bullish divergence in the middle of it. And it's actually very, very similar to the type of setup that we got on the daily back at the start of the year. So let's go and have a quick look at that. All right, so we had this bullish divergence here, which was actually on the daily, right? We'll get rid of these for now, right? And so we had this bullish divergence here on the daily, right? Which you can see I've already drawn out for examples. So we had our first low here, right? And this is, usually you would put in your pivot, but actually the pivot was from back here. So all of these lows were actually bullish divergences, but we don't need to worry about that. Because once it has a full swing away and then swing back, for me it would be reset, but because the indicator hasn't actually, it's not intelligent enough to pick up on things like that, right? So we have to use a little bit of discernment and our own intelligence to read and understand. Even though it's doing pretty much all the work for us, we need to also be able to add a little bit of IQ to figure it out for ourselves. And you'll get used to it after watching it play out a few times, after using it for a couple of months, right? So usually this would be the pivot if we're just ignoring the rest of the price action, right? So this is our first low, right? And then this is our lower low, while while the indicator is actually making a higher low, right? So indicators making a higher low and prices making lower low, right? And this one actually played out for a very big move in the end, right? If we look at that, I ended up going for a 55%er. Right, and what I always do is when I can see that these divergences are coming in, because you get your pivot or you get into this oversold range. Typically, Bitcoin doesn't stay oversold on the daily or the 4 hour on the RSI for very long, right? So whenever you really oversold on the 4 hour daily, you can sort of start to look on the lower time frames, and then you can look for a better entry rather than waiting for the daily to close, right? And so what we can see here is we actually have a 4 hour entry candle on this one here, right? With the big wick down below, this actually ends up playing out as a pretty nice swing failure pattern, right? So we'll just draw that in. This is a really nice SFP, right? So here we can clearly see that shorts are going to be trapped, trying to trade the breakdown here. And a lot of people are going to get wrecked if this starts to reverse here and go back up, right? So then we can even finesse a little bit and go and look on the lower time frames on the 1 hour and see if we can get a even better entry candle in there. Right. I can't remember exactly how I actually traded this one, but there wasn't a pin reversal candle here, but we still had a bull div when that actually reversed. So we would have to take the 4 hour one, right? Let's go just back here, right? So if you're just trading this strategy perfectly, you would wait for the close, right? Sometimes when it's a big one like this, and I just sort of preempt it and get the entry anyway. And then the stop loss would just be below here, right? So the way that I would play this, especially with the SFP, maybe we're getting somewhere here, but we'll just play it on the closing basis. FTA would be there, so that's not a great setup. We'd be wanting to look for something a little bit higher if you got in on the close, right? But we would be looking for something like that, right? Up to challenge the top of the range high back up here. So it ends up being all right in the end if you're taking profit there. But what we want to be looking at is obviously that this is a daily bullish divergence that we're actually getting in on. Whoops, gone back too far. Right, this is the daily bullish divergence that we're actually getting in on, remember. Right, so we want to be looking to take profit probably around somewhere up here, I think is pretty reasonable, right? You could also use like Fibonacci or something like that to try and look for areas to take profit. In that case, we could do something similar like this, right? Take from top to bottom, right? From up here down to here, and then be looking for the 618. So it sort of lines up as well with our FTA, well, it's not really FTA, but horizontal level of support resistance, right? And we end up coming up and taking out that wick, and it goes a lot higher. So you can get really, really good trades. And obviously, this bullish divergence on the daily ends up rolling around into a inverse head and shoulders, right? Which is very similar to the pattern that we've got playing out right now on the lower time frames on the 4 hour. Right, so that's what I'm expecting to play out here. We're looking for this 4 hour morning starts to continue to play out, break the high, the top of the range high, which you'd probably say is about this level. So here, 9,550, and then that possibly could end up moving into a ascending triangle, right? This could be the bottom of the ascending triangle here. And if it plays out something like this, this will be the prime entry for the higher move. So what I'm looking at is to get in on the inverse head and shoulders play here, right? And to then roll this into the higher time frame move. But I don't want to get too much into current analysis and things like that, because this video is about bullish divergences, right? Because we want to look and assess how consistently they play out. All right, so let's go and we'll look at a few more, right? So here's one, wasn't a big reversal of trend, but we got a few divergences in here, and this ended up rolling into about a 6% profitable trade setup, right? So once again, we can see that price is making lower lows, right? And RSI is going the other direction. RSI is going up, right? And price is going down. That's always going to lead to a reversal, right? And even if it does end up rolling over like it did here, we still had to have a reset of our momentum indicators before the next sell-off and the next dump. Right, we also got one here as well. Bit of a bullish divergence, right? They're not really the greatest trades to take when you're in a downtrend, right? Which is why I want to show you these ones, because we're making lower highs here. We can see this is an initial high, right? And then lower high, lower high, lower high, right? Because we're counter trading against the momentum. Then these are not really the ones that you want to take. The ones that we do want to take are the ones where we're making higher highs and higher lows, because they're going to get us back in basically on the pullbacks while price is going up, and they're going to lead to much better, much more profitable trades. So here's a really good example of this one here, which also lines up with the falling wedge, right? I hope you guys that are in our Facebook groups and Discords will have remembered us trading this last year, and this ended up being a really good profitable trade. For the start of the year, right? So off this bullish divergence, it ends up breaking out for a nice 15% trade before the next pattern set up, right? So let's go and have a look at a few more. Right, there's obviously this is a pretty good example here. So little ones like this, where you just have there's actually a bullish divergence in here, but for me, there's no big swing away and then swing back, right? So for me, I'm not really looking at that as being a bullish divergence, even though we did have the China pump after that and it mooned. I'm not really saying that happened because there was a bullish divergence on that little point there, right? I want to see usually a proper swing away and then swing back, right? And the indicator going like this, putting in a low here, and then we have the higher low. So it'd be like this. Right, and so you get the clean divergence of price making a lower low and the indicator making a higher low, right? Sorry, I said that wrong. Price making a lower low, indicator making a higher low. So just looking for a few more here. Right, we do have one that was sort of a little bit significant through here, right? So we have price making a lower low, right? And indicator making a higher low, right? Nice and clean, and then that ends up leading to reversal. So what I'm looking at when I start to see bullish divergences like this, it puts me on alert that there possibly could be something bigger than a reversal, or at least I'm on alert that the 4-hour time frame is going to need another swing high, right? And when you're in an uptrend like we were last year, like this, quite an aggressive uptrend, when you get the 4-hour time frame being oversold and starting to reset, that's always a really good time to be looking to get into the market, right? And if you guys that are more investor mindset and things like that, and you're only looking at entries a couple of times a year, right? I think some of the best entries you're ever going to get is when you start to get daily bullish divergences, because Bitcoin typically is not oversold on the daily time frame on the RSI very many times, right? And it usually leads to big resets in the price action, right? So here we go. Here's a really good example of the daily bullish divergence, and this was probably one of the only ones that we got for almost an entire year until we got back here, right? So there was like 2 throughout the entire year. This was the next one, right, through here. So we had this one that played out pretty nicely. So once again, you can see that price action is making lower lows, and we can see that our RSI is making higher lows, right? So we have that really nice divergence through there. And obviously, I mean, this was the China pump, led to, 40% pump in a couple of days, right? But there was things that were telling us that price is about to start reversing and heading up in the other direction, right? This one, obviously, 30% pump instantly off that once it finally released. And then we all know that, this ended up being the very bottom of the price action for 2018 and 19, right? And that ended up being a 300% move. Other ones that, weren't as large, but still extremely profitable trades. Like this is a 44% setup, right? And we can see that we have price making lower lows, and we have the indicator making higher lows through here, right? So it's popping up on our chart, very easy to see, right? And then all we need to do is be adding every time we get the bull deal signal, right? And then take profit as it starts to go up. So, you could take profit maybe here at FTA, or you could look for higher after that if you wanted to. Usually on the daily bullish divergences, you're going to get, around the 30 to 50% move off of that. So when they start to get put in, you get in a really good position at the bottom. Usually I just try to edge my stop loss up and put it below significant candles and things like that, and see if there is going to be something like inverse head and shoulders like this one ended up playing out as well, because that will add to the trade obviously profitability, and that will give me an indication that I probably want to hold it for a little bit longer. And when you do get the bullish divergence on the higher time frames like the daily and the 4 hour, sometimes it does, a lot of the time it does actually end up following with inverse head and shoulders pattern, and it actually helps us getting into the head instead of trying to get in at the shoulder or breakout point, which I always think is a bad area to be getting in on head and shoulders, right? So it helps us get in and establish our position much earlier. This is another example here, right? We have our pivot back here, right? Really significant swing away. So this is a full daily rally up and a full daily rally back down, right? Which is a 60-70% move, right? Then we have our bullish divergences back down here, and then does this little bottom pattern, double bottom, Adam and Eve or something like that, and then ends up going into a 50% move, right? And you can go back and back test this as much as you want, guys. This is pretty much that's all on Binance, but you can go and test it on the other exchanges like Bitstamp and stuff like that. And it consistently plays out, especially when Bitcoin is in an uptrend. Entering on the daily and the 4 hour bullish divergence is going to get you into really good positions, and especially if we go into a really strong uptrend again, and we do finally break out from this multi-year resistance. I think using the 4 hour, or especially daily if you're investing for longer term, and definitely the 4 hour if you're a day trader, is going to give you really good entries towards the bottom of the swing lows that you can take advantage of. So that's pretty much it, guys. It's a super simple strategy. Use the indicator, look for the divergences, and I don't really see how you can go wrong with this one and get wrecked on it. You just need to hold your trade. Sometimes it does go a little bit deeper. Try not to front run it too much. Wait for candle closes, and just put your stop loss below the wick of where the bullish divergence is actually activated. So it pops up on the chart and says the bull div as soon as the candle goes green, but it's not realistically confirmed until it gets locked in, right? But you can front run it a little bit and enter on the lower time frames, which is usually what I do because that's just a part of my general trading strategy. So I can have much smaller losses if I take a loss, because I'm taking a loss on a 5-minute chart. But I might have a few more losses, but when I do finally get a trade that plays out, it plays out to be quite profitable, right? But if you want more information on everything like that and the rest of our trading strategy and more on bullish divergences, check us out at altcoinmastery.io. And there'll be links and everything like that underneath the video. So please give us a like and subscribe if this video has taught you something and you make profit off the trading strategy. So thanks a lot for tuning in, guys. We'll see you all in the next episode.